spreading plates.
Now, I had some questions after I watched that, so this next bit explains more in detail about how he believes mountains are formed, and it has very little to do with what we were taught and what you see here.
Watch this model, please, as we enlarge the planet. The 10-mile thick hardened curved tectonic plates are longer on the top than at the underside because of the curve. When the crust recurves to a less curved state, the upper crust must collapse in a series of wrinkles. Call them mountains. The center of the continent falls straight down, as you can see. Let's go to North America and let the Earth grow. Watch as the surface recurves, collapses, and folds into mountains. This is how we get mountains. Just as mountains wrinkle and fold, the edges of the continents crack and split. This is what these cracks are. The same recurving that makes mountains also creates those continental shelf cracks. We glossed over India a moment ago. An incredible misconception exists concerning India. The common belief has been that India broke away from, well, the bottom of Africa, rode up the Indian Ocean through some manner of means, and it crashed into the bottom of Asia. Its impact was so great, say the scientists, that the Himalayas were created and stacked up mountain range on mountain range to its current state, and that even now mountains are continuing to grow as India continues to drive up Asia. If there wasn't so much evidence of this happening, this would seem like a preposterous and even stupid idea. Well, it is a preposterous and even stupid idea. How can an island uproot itself from the ocean floor, seemingly float across the ocean, and crash into Asia so forcefully that it created mountain ranges over millennia and continues to build these mountains today? It shatters common sense. This is a wrong theory. The lower plates spread apart, and that must explain everything. Must. Yet the stacked up mountains are there, and still they grow. Hey, just a thought. Maybe Italy crashed into Europe like India crashed into Asia. A little smaller, but they look the same to me. Of course, I have an answer to this mystery. Two gigantic ramjet rocket motors mounted on the base of India, fueled by the magma flow from inside the Earth. Well, no. There is a logical explanation for the growing Himalayas above a massive India, and this is it. India was once attached to Africa when the world was much smaller. It was also attached to Asia. As the Earth grew, Africa unwrapped from under the Earth and tore away from India. Spreading down from the Arctic and away from North America, Eurasia was still the largest landmass on Earth. The recurving of this gigantic landmass created the greatest folding of the upper crust on Earth. This folding and mountaining happened just above this new triangular broken away peninsula that we call India. If India wasn't hanging down there, northern India would be Asia's coast. This land area was stretched out to the side, just as northern Italy was stretched sideways, because it was on Europe's stretching coast. Down lower, on both India and Italy, the sideways pulling tension ceased, and normal recurving, mild mountaining began. Gigantic Africa, released now to spread downward, pulled Europe to bend downward, and then the real hardcore tearing and stretching began. Tearing and stretching which gave us, today, the Mediterranean Sea. But because of the landmass we now call Saudi Arabia, Africa's trip downward would not be easy. Saudi Arabia acted as a pivot, pulling and stretching the land to the left before it could pull downward. This pulled open the Aral Sea, the Caspian Sea, the gigantic Black Sea, And then, in a clear progression, and at the same time, the Mediterranean opened. Just a small point that I thought might interest you. These bodies of water all have a similar shape because of the way they were pulled apart. The Mediterranean is pulled at the center, a bit to the right. Then this happens. Two lobes are ripped open on either side. Because the Black Sea sits above these mountains, the direction of the tear goes upward or downward, again like the Mediterranean, and then the two sides also tear into lobes. Then we go to the Caspian Sea, which tears to the left. Here again is the center tear and the two lobes. But now we come to the Aral Sea, which doesn't seem to follow the same pattern. I spent months contemplating this unsupportive body of water. I figured 3 out of 4 isn't bad. Then I looked at other maps and found this, which uses actual photographs of the Earth. See that shape, that's lower tectonic plate? If the water was deeper, this land would be filled with water. This shape is almost exactly the same as the Caspian Sea area. Spread at the middle, and two lobes of spread. This area on the Aegean is most interesting. As the stretching and pulling forces in each body of water stretched open, this land area between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean burst open in slow motion as Africa pulled down. It's like watching an explosion in slow motion. This process is still going on. That's why there is so much recurring volcanic activity in this area. As the left pulled, well, leftward, the top of the continent was pulling free of the other side of Eurasia, and of course Greenland. As a result, these islands broke off and strung out like beads on a string. As a result of this pulling apart, there is a massively weakened and stretched out U-shaped area of land. It's demarked down the left by these lakes, which are stretch marks. On the right side is the St. Lawrence Seaway. Examine how clear it is that this area has been pulled up and out of this right side. And the explosive focus of this eruptive pulling is the Great Lakes. You may have been taught in school that the Great Lakes and other lakes were carved out by glaciers. This is simply not true. When we go backward in time, the St. Lawrence Seaway will reclose as we expect. More significantly, as all this happens, the Great Lakes will close. And as we go forward in time, the eruptive spreading of the land moving apart tears open and creates the Great Lakes at this key focal point.